talk about leadership, we usually think of a person who is stepping up and telling people what to do. We're vocally telling them what to do. We're putting them in place. We're stepping up when we're saying things that need to be said. Thinking more of the alpha male. You're thinking of the verbal, communicative leadership. You think about that. And sometimes we look at players who aren't as vocal or aren't as demonstrative as you're being weak or you're being shy or you're not a real leader. And I feel like we have to really think more about what leadership is sometimes. And once we can start doing that more, we can really understand and respect more players a lot more. Like so many times when you look at ESPN and Fox Sports and stuff, they're questioning players' leadership. So you're questioning a certain player's leadership as being, oh, he's not a leader because he's not gonna call out this teammate or whatever. He's not gonna yell at his team and get in their face and do all these things that they have this idea of a leader being. But I feel like there's a lot more to leadership than just saying stuff because I feel like it's really a 50-50 street or it's a partnership and a pairing or a blending of actions and words. Everybody else will say actions speak louder than words. So why isn't me why aren't my actions being as respected as this player words? Now you feel like I'm making up, think about this. The Warriors. Steph Curry and Klay Thompson aren't the most vocal players on that team. They're pretty chill. They stay to themselves for the most part. Um, they don't say a whole lot. They don't even when they do speak, they don't say anything too crazy. The one on that team that speaks out the most is Draymond Green. Andre Iguodala will step up and say stuff, but for the most part, Steph and Klay don't say too much. You know what I mean? If you look at the Brooklyn Nets, KD and Kyrie aren't the most. KD will speak up sometimes and say what needs to be said, but for the most part, they weren't. They aren't the most vocal leaders. They'll say things they need to be said, but they're not the vocal leaders of the team. More than likely, somebody else taking that role. Um, when you look at LeBron, he's gonna step up and say what needs to be said. He's more of an extrovert type of guy. And you look at Kobe, he's gonna get in your face, get in your butt, say what needs to be said. Jordan's gonna say what needs to be said. CP3 is gonna say what needs to be said. But you can't kill Kawhi because he shows up to work, does his job, and he doesn't cuss anybody out or nothing. But the players look at him showing up to workouts every single day. Players look at how he works and performs and look at like that's leadership too. So the players who, more than likely, the players who speak out more often are more than likely extroverts. You being an extrovert doesn't make you a better leader than I am because I'm an introvert. My leadership skills is just as powerful. Me showing up every day consistently, coming in before and after workouts, working on my game. I'm in the gym all the time. How's my leadership not showing? Every time we're going through a drill, I'm going through it as hard as I can. I'm putting the best effort in. Like nobody's matching me in effort. Nobody's matching me in my actions. And I feel like we have to stop separating leadership as extrovert leadership versus introvert leadership. Like introvert leadership is just as impactful and as strong because if you're not performing, but you're talking to me crazy, we're gonna have an issue. Because once again, actions speak louder than words. The reason why this player has the authority and ability to speak out and call out stuff on his team because he's performing. And the reason why this player on his team, for example, Steph, the reason why Steph has power to speak up on that team when he does, because he's performing his butt off. He's out there getting buckets like needs to be happy. He's doing his role. He's doing his job. But if Steph wasn't doing good, now the Blues try to be like, man, y'all suck. Y'all ain't playing right. You need to step it up. Like, bro, what are you doing out there? Like, what? But because Steph is Steph, he's doing what needs to be done. He's actionable. He's taking actionable leadership steps. You'll listen to what he says now. So like sometimes Draymond just talk, but he's backing up with his action. He's actually working too. But it doesn't make his leadership any better than Steph's. It's just different. I think too many times we ostracize what's different and not what's the pre-programmed norm of what this should be. And like, oh, this isn't this, so this is wrong. No, it's just different. And so I think we have to stop ostracizing, stop, being so critical on introvert leadership and forcing players to speak up all the time. Like sometimes it's not the best thing. Let me figure out my leadership is for me. Like how do I take action first, and let me culture leadership, cultivate the leadership around the player, and expose him to stuff more. So for a good example of this is Sue Bird. I heard Sue Bird talking about when she got to UConn. Gino challenged her to speak up and be more of a vocal leader. Because at first she was an introvert leader. She come to school, come to the gym, do her job, and kind of just like whatever. Not whatever, but she just do her job and kind of just like do she would do what needs to be done. But Gino challenged her to be more of a vocal leader and to speak up more. So now she's grown to a place where she's a very comfortable vocal leader, and now she's at a place to where she acts and she speaks. And I feel like that's where good leadership happens. Like embrace that player's current state of leadership of them doing things, but then nudge them and push them outside the comfort zone. Saying, "Hey, you need to speak up and do something else. You need to say something about this." It'll happen, but you don't want them to force them not be themselves because what makes them great is them being themselves. So we can't push them outside of being themselves too often because now they're not being them. And I kind of had this theory on why a lot of times some great players don't grow up to be that type of leader. Like most great players, I don't want to say are introverts, but are more likely to not be the vocal leader, but at some point push to be the vocal leader. Because I think growing up they had the psychology to where something needs to happen. This job needs to get done. We need to win this game. I'm going to do something. So my leadership is me stepping up and doing something. Me calling you out and saying this whatever, probably not going to change this outcome versus me actually stepping up and doing something. And I might pull you to the side, like, hey man, if you set the screen from me this way, you can rebound and give it to me like this, whatever. That's a part of vocal leadership. But because it's not as seen or talked about as much, it's not respected as much. Hey man, like you slacking, you alright man? You okay? Like you slipping tonight a little bit, man. You got it? Yeah, I'm just tired, man. But there's no excuse, man. You right, man. I pick it up, man. I got you. Leadership right there. Versus, yo, man, what you doing, dog? Like you tripping? Like this ain't what we doing. Like what? You coming at me crazy, dog? Like I'm alright, bro. I'm just a little tired. Like just because of that action, it changes the dynamics of what that player realizes and what he does now. So by respecting my leadership speaks to this person a little bit better. We speak the same language of leadership and follower. So we can't demonize what this player does sometimes and make him force to be the other thing. Because I think most great players are sometimes forced too much to be a vocal leader, but they're programmed to be. I think about it, man. If the team's struggling, but hey, man, you need to do something about it. All right, cool. Let me go out and score. Hey, man, y'all slacking, bro. Step it up. Okay, let me go do something and score. I'm taking over the game now. I don't just say anything. My game's speaking for me. So I think that's why most of the time the great players or sometimes the best players on the team aren't always the vocal leaders. Not because it's an introvert versus extrovert thing. I think sometimes it's more of the programming of how they are. I think about this too. I think most introverts, the game speaks for them, so I don't have to say anything. But then I'm the underdog player who my game don't speak as loud for me, so I have to have my game at 70%, but then my vocal leadership has to be the last 30% to get me to 100. Versus Brandon Ingram, whose game is 100% game in what he does, but then the role player who's not as good as him, my game is 60%, but I have to be vocal to make up for this last 40% to get 100. And so we have to. I think that's a theory. That's a theory that I have of why sometimes the best players aren't always the most vocal leaders, or they don't have the vocal leadership as much. It's an introvert versus extrovert thing, but it's also the growing up, the conditions of what they've been under to something needs to happen. How are we going to get it done? So for me, I've known that I can do something about it, so I'm going to go do something. Versus I'm not the best player. So, hey, man, guys, we got to step it up, man. Like, hey, you need to rebound, man. You got to do this. You got to run harder. We're not doing this. I can't do something about it necessarily, but I see it. I need to speak this thing to happening. So I think both of those are how programmed to how players are growing up to being. And sometimes you have those players who are more extroverts. They're gonna say what needs to be said. That's how they were raised. That's how they are in the household. But then you have some players who subconsciously see that they can't do something about it. So I'm gonna speak about it. Hey, Bi, you're not stepping up this game, man. KD, Kawhi, y'all not playing hard enough, man. We about to lose this game. Step it up. Say less. So I got you. But me as an introvert, something needs to happen. Like, now I'm thinking to myself, man, we slipping, man. Game ain't picking up. Let me pick my energy up. Let me pick my energy up a little bit more. Let me pick it up and practice a little bit more. Let me turn it up a little bit more. Let me do something. That's my leadership. So I feel like too many times we demonize the introvert leadership or the quieter leadership and make it seem like it's soft, make it seem like it's not good enough. But it's just as powerful and impactful as speaking up and saying something. You need a balance of it. You need to have a team full of guys speaking up and talking crazy to your team, but you don't need to have a team full of guys that are all trying to do things. You need somebody to speak up and call out to make sure making sure we're all on one accord on the same page. So um, that's what I think about when it comes to leadership sometimes. Because I have a guy who pretty good player, but he's not an extrovert like that, and he would have people around him pushing him to be more and speak up and say more things. But that's not how he is. He's not even as comfortable with taking over and doing things sometimes. Well, he's not as consistent with doing that, so you can't force him to even go out of his comfort zone of talking more. So I feel like that's a lot of players' problems that they're forced to be more vocal and be a vocal leader, and they're really more actionable leadership. And then they're forced to think that their way of leadership is so bad that they can't do what they do now. So I just feel like that's the new thought of having when it comes to leadership. Like introvert versus extrovert, both are fine. Stop putting them against each other. The actions versus words, stop putting them against each other. And then also think about how people were raised, and not raised, but either raised or subconsciously programmed to think of how can I get this result? How can we win? Do I do something or do I say something? So I think about all of that comes together to what the leadership is, and then the next layer of how we got there and how to get to this point. So um, that's my theory, man, of what leadership really is and how we get there, man. But let me know. I really love to get feedback on this one. And what do you guys think, man? Do you feel like the extrovert and vocal leadership is better, and the introverts need to take a back seat and they need to step it up and step the game up? Am I wrong about this? Like look at guys in the NBA, man. Let me know what you think, because last time I checked, Kawhi ain't the most vocal player, but he's still one of the best guys in the league. Giannis ain't calling out a team like crazy, but he's gonna go outperform. KD's not the most extroverted guy. You're gonna put 30 on your head though. There's only a few guys to step up and are both the best player and the vocal leader. LeBron, Kobe, Jordan, Chris Paul. There's not too many guys on that list that are gonna say something and do something. I don't think that's the most uh, it's not the most common thing to have. There's only a handful that really have that blend of both. Dame Lillard is a very quiet guy. He'll say what needs to be said, but more than likely, if action, we need to get to this goal. Actions is what he's gonna take. His steps to take is gonna be actions versus words all the time. So let me know what you think, man. What is my theory wrong? Is my theory right? Subscribe below. I got a lot more videos like this coming. I got a lot more videos that I've posted, and stay tuned to it, man. Like it, share it with somebody. If you feel like their leadership is one or the other, or you don't have a debate about this leadership, but let me know what you think, man. Thank you for watching. Have a good one.